Sweet Baby Inc. goes into hiding. Belair pretending everything is fine despite constant failures. Gamers are fed up with Sweet Baby Inc. bashing men and blaming the fans for their poor performance in their titles. To employees saying stories are better without white people. With now, studios won't even hire developers who may have worked with Sweet Baby for fear of backlash. Hello, my name is Shane Gamez. I talk about stuff that people get mad about. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you leave a like, comment, and please subscribe. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back and get ready to be disappointed. Around October 11th, users would notice that Sweet Baby Inc.'s website would have some changes that are rather interesting to say the least. Sweet Baby Inc. is going into full stealth mode as more and more gamers are fighting back and the DEI propaganda agenda is failing. Before we get into the changes, I think it's important to do a quick recap on how we got here, as it's a great way to understand why they are hiding and trying to work in secret now. In 2018, former Ubisoft developers that include scriptwriter Kim Belair and product manager David Bédard would create Sweet Baby Inc. in Montreal, Canada, with the sole purpose of bringing diversity, equity, and inclusion to the gaming community at large. Since then, Sweet Baby Inc. has done nothing but enrage gamers around the world with their creative decisions, or lack thereof, by changing characters' sexuality, even though no one even thought about it or wanted to know to begin with. Race swapping and blasting men, and more specifically, white men. Most of the games they have worked on have failed terribly, and now developers like Square Enix asked to be removed from their list of clients on their site. In 2019, the first game Sweet Baby Inc. would officially work on is New Cab, a visual novel style game about a cab driver, and since then they have worked on games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Gotham Knights, God of War Ragnarök, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Spider-Man 2, with almost every game either bombing in the sales department or creating so much controversy it leads to a lot of community infighting. One of their most recent games, Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn by A44 Games, a third-person action game, Sweet Baby Inc. was brought on to bring a better perspective to the team, according to the COO of A44 Games, Audrey Tops, a known activist, and has been accused of using company money for her personal goals. Flintlock had an all-time peak of 648 players, which now sits at only 6, with a 15-player peak as the time of making this video. It would seem gamers didn't care for the messaging brought on by Kim Belair and Audrey Tops. A more recent game, Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, a game that would cost Warner Brothers $200 million to make, was supposed to be the next 10-year-long game series that was going to move an entire generation. Absolutely bombed, destroying everything that Warner Brothers built up with the success of Hogwarts Legacy, changing Joker to be gay, Miss Freeze looking like this, and of course, not providing players a bit of hope after the Batman scene was a massive mistake, to say the least. This is a perfect example why DEI groups are bad. They don't understand the characters or how to tell stories with the right community. Batman is my absolute favorite thing, and Kevin Conroy is the best Batman. The Batman animated series is the standard at comparing any and all Batmans, period. So if you're going to do a Batman is Dead thing with Kevin Conroy, you need to do it right. And of course, Sweet Baby Inc. has no ideal and just care about who's sleeping with who. They provided people with zero clue that the Batman we're fighting and the rest, like Superman and Green Lantern, aren't the real versions and is probably Brainiac clones. Longtime fans of DC sees this coming, especially with King Shark putting the ring on. We know that these aren't the real heroes, but the color of Deadshot's skin was more important than providing written stories that would encourage fans to stick around and see what happens next, instead of just ending the characters that everyone knows and loves in a disrespectful way, and thus led to one of the biggest failures in gaming history, only being second to the biggest failure, Concord, another DEI game that Sweet Baby Inc. should just slap their name on it too, with only 111 players on Suicide Squad. At the time of this video, it is safe to say this is a total failure, to say the least. Then finally, the sequel to the amazing story of God of War reboot for the PS5, God of War Ragnarök. This game has had a 55% decrease in player count, which can translate to almost a 60% decrease in sales. Sweet Baby Inc. felt it was better for the game to be less violent and have Kratos change character and be more apologetic and weaker, with side quests that go into climate change. I am not kidding. They actually tried to hide talks about climate change and use of our greenhouse gases, was saying the geysers that emit gases are causing the weather to change. Not to mention, one of the writers, Anthony Birch, wanted to make Kratos talk about kissing men. So it's no surprise that the first game had a peak of 74,000 players versus Ragnarok's 35,000. Then we have games like Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake 2. At first glance, looks successful. However, upon inspection, we can discover that even though these games are selling very well, the amount of money it costs to make these games are so high that these games aren't even profitable. Spider-Man 2 needed to sell around 8 million copies to even be considered profitable, because it used a $315 million budget. That's more than some movies that Disney makes for Spider-Man. And even though at the time of this video, Spider-Man 2 sits at 11 million copies sold, it's becoming harder and harder to be profitable, especially with the Mary Jane controversy, a total immersion-breaking experience. Being a self-insert of a writer who wanted to be in the game so badly, she just made herself stronger than Spider-Man while being a mega ultra girl boss, who told fans, if she's a little OP, I don't give a crap. Alan Wake 2, despite selling over 1.3 million copies sold, still isn't profitable, which just shows throwing money at these DEI-style stories won't fix the problem of these organizations like Sweet Baby Inc. destroying and ruining games for people. Sweet Baby Inc. employs writers like Cameron Wild, who has been quoted saying that the reason why he became a writer is to burn the game industry down to the ground, and talking points like, to prove that space where whiteness doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told. He thinks no white people in stories are the best ones. The website DEI Detected and Sweet Baby Inc. Detected Steam created pages were created with the sole purpose of exposing and bringing awareness to gamers around the world of what games Sweet Baby Inc. is involved in. Crazy Twitter trolls and Sweet Baby Inc. employees tried to take down the pages, to which ended in total failure, as the main culprit, Chris Kindred, ended up being banned themselves. The amount of controversy Sweet Baby has stirred up and the games that have totally flopped is so bad that studios now won't hire employees that have worked with Sweet Baby. Former employee Kazuma Hashimoto states that she cannot get a job because her time of employment with Sweet Baby, with statements like, "Are we going to get harassed if we hire you?" expressing no one is interested in working with her now. The list of issues can go on forever. However, it seems it's reaching a boiling point, as gamers are no longer putting up with DEI agendas, and if a game has Sweet Baby Inc. in it on any level, then it is totally avoided, or at the very least falls short of expectations. This has led Sweet Baby Inc. to change and update their website, removing both its client and game page. Now the website is basically one page, whereas before they proudly showcase every game and client they worked with to now just a few images and quotes. The main line reading, Sweet Baby Inc. is an award-winning team of writers and narrative designers who helped make stories better, which we now know just isn't true. As I expressed earlier, most games end up as failures and at best performs worse than expected. Other quotes, we worked within the scope to cover all your script writing needs, from cinematics and dialogue to naming 500 pieces of armor. We know every word counts, and no matter the stage of production, we can strengthen the story pitches, world building, and character development needs, and other narrative designs. 2. We approach sensitivity by working with your existing narrative documentation to bring out its natural authenticity and emotional resonance. We don't look for red flags, we highlight green ones, showing off Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake, which we now know isn't as big of a success they look to be. Instead of a game list or client section, we have featured projects with games like God of War Ragnarök and Suicide Squad. One game that couldn't outperform the first one, and another that is bankrupting Warner Brothers game department, with one final segment discussing their outreach and workshops. Our experienced team writers and narrative designers are ready and available to provide workshop talks and general insight to your team. Let us show you how we dig beneath the narrative surface. This is Kim Belair and David Bédard trying to hide their involvement with Sweet Baby Inc. Kim Belair is trying to cover up the issues, downplaying the failures with comments on YouTube during an interview with Black Girl Gamers. She would go on to say, doesn't materially affect our work. The vast majority of these companies already know what's going on and they still hire us. They know what we actually do and doesn't necessarily change our baseline survival. However, even with comments like that, they are coming to the realization that gamers do not accept nor do they want anything to deal with DEI and the woke agenda. They know if they want a paycheck, they need to hide and no longer be public about their involvement into games and various studios. Luckily for us, we have sites like DEI Detected and Steam groups like Sweet Baby Inc. Detected that will help us identify and avoid Sweet Baby at all costs. I've said it many times, DEI is the opposite of creativity. It's a bunch of people who could not come up with their own characters and story, so they infect other people's stories by changing them so they can take credit for the work if it does well, removing the hard work and vision of the original creator. And when it bombs, they blame the fans and mostly white men for the reason for its failure. I am glad they are learning that we do not accept them and we will no longer tolerate their insane ideals. What do you guys think? What do you think about Sweet Baby Inc. hiding and pretending nothing is wrong? Do you think the end of the DEI agenda is near? Also, what's your favorite Spider-Man? Although mine is Tobey Maguire, I feel that's too easy as he is the best. So my other favorite one is Shamik Moore. His Miles Morales is the best thing that's happened since Sony's Spider-Man. If you haven't watched those films yet, please go watch it. You won't be disappointed. Literally, the best thing about Spider-Man 2 is that I could be Miles from the animated movie. And for those of you who stayed to the end, thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me to see you guys interact and leave comments on my videos. Thank you so much for the support. Please stop by my Twitch at twitch.tv/D2Games. The link is down below. Swing by and say hey. The community and I just play video games and hang out. I would love to meet each and every one of you. Stay awesome, have a beautiful night, and I'll see you in the next one.